The Craft and Calling Show. I am so incredibly honored to be here with Ron Nussbaum himself. Ron, how are you today, my friend?
I am doing fantastic, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here, Ron. There's a number of reasons why I'm excited to have this conversation. One of which is that you and I were chatting before we joined, and there's just a crisis when it comes to the communication on the job site in relation to, honestly, everything that's led up to us arriving on the job site, what happens on the job site in relation to working with the customer, but then also with the back office. I've done a number of these kind of diving into the things that are breaking in the project timelines, like where are we actually having our biggest pitfalls in the project, from initially the consultation with the customer to the job being completed. And so often it's that time, it's the time between going to the job, being on the job site, and then completing it. It's like these little incremental moments that we just keep running into these issues where we really break down the essence and the integrity of what we say that we're going to do for our customer. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, among many other things. But Ron, before we dive in, tell me your favorite thing about yourself.
I would say my favorite thing about myself is, I'm a United States Marine. That is, I think, probably one of the best things about me.
Wow. I love that answer. I was wondering where that would come up and come in, because you tell me, I have a feeling like that changes the way that you engage on a business front. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of positives to military experience in business. There's some negatives, but there's a sense of grit and just get it done attitude that you just can't underestimate. When your plan is to never fail, but you have 5 plans to survive if you do fail, that's the kind of mentality you get when you have a veteran entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. And you've got your business, BuilderComs, and then you also have your podcast, the Construction Champions. And that's actually where we had our first conversation. And it was such a pleasure seeing you do your work. And I love seeing you now in front of the mic for being the guest. So with that, let's go ahead and talk about this crisis that we see so often on the job site. Can you talk a little bit about that in your experience and what you're seeing in terms of the problem itself? And then also, let's talk about what you're doing to fix that.
Yeah. So the reason I have become the communication guru or expert is because I got tired of dealing with it. And I think everybody out there that's listening can think of a time when, if somebody just knew, if you just had a conversation with somebody about what was happening on the project, it would have went a lot smoother. And I like to tell everybody is like, I want to solve problems one time. We were scaling a residential construction company.
Yes.
We're at 25 crews, trying to go to 100. I did not want to have to keep solving the same problems over and over and over again. And when it came to communication, it was one of the biggest hurdles that we had. And you touched on it earlier, is because it's very multifaceted. We're not just talking the customer communication, how with your client. We're talking a team. You're talking stakeholders. You're talking different departments within that team. Like, how do you get all of these people to actually deliver the information that the next person needs, or that is just required? That's where the biggest hiccup happens, is we don't even get required information to change hands because we can't facilitate it. We're doing nothing to actually make it happen. We do a lot of assuming. I watch this unfold now from a different perspective. I used to watch it unfold as like I was the one that was getting my ass chewed on the job sites. I was the one that was losing the revenue and the profits because of these mistakes. Now I look at it as we have a friend that just got a pool installed, and it was a complete communication disaster on both parties. I watched both sides of it not communicate effectively because there was no system, there was no process in place, and it led to a complete disaster where everybody's mad at everybody. But really, it should have never happened at all. And that is the true chaos of communication, is that it's something that should have never happened. We should have never got to a point where this actually caused the chaos.
Right. Right. And to that point, is it the lack of systems in place? Is it the lack of, maybe it's even just not even just the lack of systems, having the house where we actually have those conversations. And it could also be the lack of even SOP, like standard operating procedures. This is how we go about communicating. Oh, and by the way, the system is the vehicle that we do this. Which do you think it is, or both, or something that I haven't said?
So, I believe BuilderComs is the solution for this, but without SOPs, it doesn't work. Like, you have to have a way that you go about it. You like, this is how we're going to respond to this. This is how, when this happens, this is how we're going to communicate. You have to have SOPs built around your communication. And
Yes.
without that, it doesn't matter what software you use. I believe that we use too much and it's too complex when it comes to software. That becomes the hold up, is like, we got Gmail, we got text messages, somebody has a Slack channel, somebody's on a personal phone, homeowners, I don't even know what's going on. We have all these different channels and we're not in control of a lot of them. That is where a lot of the issues stem from, because you have no idea. Like, you do not know what's happening on that project. Even if you have SOPs, if the communication's happening everywhere else,
Right.
it's going to fail. It's going to break.
Ron, as you're saying that, I'm considering the people listening to this, right? Other business owners, other people who are in the trades field. One of the things that I think could be most helpful for every single one of us, I've got the family painting business, and I actually was just sitting and talking with my dad about this yesterday. What is the customer journey from the second they call, from the second they fill out a form on our website? What is every single point of the customer journey? And y'all, we have to get nitty gritty and down to the bare bones of this, because to Ron's point, we can't put in a new system if we don't know where the breakage is. And so with this whole identification and examination of the customer journey, that's where we get to say, okay, first they pick up the phone and then they call us. What happens next? And I really mean this, what happens next, because we had a voicemail or a voice message that our customers were getting that was 47 seconds long before they could actually leave a voice message. That's a really long time. And we were getting people hanging up and we didn't know why. We're like, people are calling, but they're not actually converting. So we have to actually ourselves move through every single step of the customer journey, seeing, okay, let me actually do the work. Let me call. What does my team say? What's the message? Is the message consistent with what's on the website? Does our phone number even work? I've seen this happen with another client in the trades business where one of their phone numbers was broken and we had no idea for months on end because we weren't pretending to be the end customer. So we have to play the role of the customer and move through the entire process of the customer journey. And Ron, where do you see the most breakage? Because, the customer journey is pretty long, right? From picking up the phone and calling, filling out a website form to we're done on the job site. Where have you found that most companies really struggle in that customer journey?
Yeah, well, that is a very broad question. Before I answer that, I want to touch on the customer journey thing and how important the conversations that you're having right now are. I used to play, if anybody's familiar with Brian Chesky, the founder of Airbnb. If you go find his 11-star experience talk that he gives, it's one of the most amazing things. And it's not long at all. I used to play it for our production. I used to play it for our sales department. And then we would have a conversation on what is an 11 install experience? Because he was talking to the team at Airbnb on what does a 5-star Airbnb experience look like, and what does an 11-star like? What like he ends at that the 11 star is Elon Musk shows up and he takes you to space like that.
Yeah.
Like they're this customer journey and what the experience looks like when you start to have the conversation with the people that matter, which are the people in your company. Like we can assume, like I could assume all I wanted. Once I was out of the field and I would just assume like this is what I think is happening.
Yes.
Until you start having these conversations with the people that are actually engaging with your customers every day, you can't really understand that customer experience and what is happening and how can you improve it. Because if you have the right people on the team, they want to do amazing things. They want to do amazing things for the customer. So they will be honest, and you have to be open to that. So I would just, if you have not listened to Brian Chesky from Airbnb, the founder, his 11-star experience, it's on YouTube. It's a short video. It would change how you think about your customer experience, and it will really motivate you. So to your original question, so there's so many places to drop the ball. I feel like there's two main ones that we drop the ball. It's in the initial, not necessarily the sale, the build. There's a lot of excitement. The client's excited. We're excited. We're closing another project.
Yeah.
The client is not asking questions they should be asking because they are excited. And what are we doing? We are glossing over actually answering the questions that we know they should have. We created a standardized checklist of what had to be said once you close the sale. Because we knew what customers what we knew what they would ask after the sale and what created problems. Because when somebody's buying something like a home renovation or even let's say the pool, it's all excitement. Like you're excited. I'm finally getting this done. I am going to have my dream kitchen. So not only am I going to have my dream kitchen, I found the person that's going to do it. I didn't even think this was possible. And the client, they're in dreamland. They're not thinking about the stuff you already know they should be asking, the details. And we don't convey them because we're afraid it might disrupt the sale. We want to leave that client in the dream state. And all that does is cause problems later on because we fail to communicate stuff that we know they need to know, but they don't know to ask because they're like, I got granite countertops. Like that's what they're thinking.
Yeah.
In the back of their mind, they know there's more questions and more information that they need to have, but they're thinking about the stainless steel appliances. They're not thinking about how many weeks could this possibly take, and what if there is overruns and it takes longer, or like the standard stuff. We don't just have these conversations proactively. We're very reactive when it comes to communication in the construction industry. And that is that's a whole road of itself on like how that kills us. The second point is when we hand it off to the next department. And this doesn't have to be, everybody thinks sales to production. This can be marketing to sales. It can be production to finance. It can be, we suck at handing off a completed packet that we have done all of our responsibilities on. And if we haven't communicating that, we just do not do a good job internally of letting the next in line know what's happening with a project, what is going on there, about the customer, any of that kind of stuff. We don't do that. And that's where the ball gets dropped. It's why customers are like, I don't know who to talk to. I talked to John, but then Mary called me and said that Jim was coming out. Like we have all this confusion because nobody is internally talking to each other. So I would say, in my experience, in what I watch today, that is where the biggest downfalls happen in communication.
I love that. Even just that example of talk to John, Mary called and said Jim's coming out. It's so many names. One, two, it actually strips away the desire for the personalization of this is your person, this is John, and they form the relationship with John. I think that that's something that we actually really forget about, is that the customer builds the rapport, the trust with the salesperson that they talk to, and then they never speak to them ever again. And a lot of I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you can continue, and then I'll put my 2 cents on this.
Okay. So many times I will make the purchase because of the person I'm interacting with. And so we cannot forget that that customer is converting because of John. So how can we allow for John to pop in, pop out throughout the entire experience, so that if they've got a problem or they've got a concern, they know, well, I trust John. And that's why I chose John over Billy, rather, with that other competitor. So how do you, I know that you've got something to add on here, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that regard of the customer builds the trust with the salesman, but then the salesman's out.
John sucks at everything past the sale. Like, I'm sorry to have to be the one that says it. Like,
John sucks.
We all project managers aren't good sales. I don't want them on sales calls. I don't want sales reps running projects. So what you have to do is you have to create a handoff that operates in front of that customer. John has to hand that off to who is, like, it's either going to be a field supervisor, it's going to be somebody in the operations side of things before that project starts, a project manager, and say, hey, this is who is going to run the rest of this project. Like that, I am good at what I am good at, and then have a handoff. And
Right.
that handoff has to happen. So here's the problem. We do it behind closed doors and we suck at it. Like, I'm the sales rep, and I'm just like, here's the project. Boom, bada bang. I'm out of here. I'm moving on to the next one. Because that's what we want our sales reps doing.
Mm-hmm.
But what we really want them to do is to do a good handoff to the operations side and publicly do it with the client.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that client should be aware of, hey, this is where I'm here. If you have issues, you can call me. I'm not the one that's coming out here to paint your house. You don't want me painting your house. This isn't me saying goodbye forever. This is me putting you in the hands of somebody that can actually do what I promised you we would do. That conversation has to happen, and a handoff happens, and now that customer has a new point of contact at the company who actually understands how to run the project, and that sales rep can move on knowing that that customer is going to be taken care of and go create more customers. And that is how that should work. Because when the sales rep stays in the process and they're on the project, it literally causes nothing but problems. And nothing against them. They're great at what they do for a reason. It's just not managing a project or doing the actual work. And that is just fine. Like I said, I don't want my project managers and my guys on the job site to be the ones out selling. It's two completely different personalities. But yet we think for some reason that it can transition, but it can't. I've tried it. I have tried to make it where a sales rep will run projects from start to finish. Your responsibility. A good sales rep just doesn't have the skill set to do that.
Right.
Just like a good project manager doesn't have the skill set to go sell.
Right.
So we have to be willing to say is like, in my opinion, that customer that has all of that trust in that sales rep, and they have to be able to transition that trust to somebody else. Because if they don't, you're actually doing that customer a disservice, because that sales rep cannot handle that project and actually fulfill on what they're promising at the
Right.
point of sale unless they transfer that trust to the person in the company that actually can.
I love that phrase, transferring trust. And in order for us to do that, I'm hearing what you're saying is that one, the sales rep actually really needs to be sure that they're selling and promising the right thing. And then two, the actually there's really three things. So first, the sales rep needs to be able to be selling and promising the right thing to set the right expectation. The project manager needs to know what the conversations are that they're having before they come in and try to deliver, because that's a communication gap, as well as the back end conversation between the project manager and salesman of, hey, by the way, this is exactly what their problem is. This is exactly what I'm promising. This is exactly what you're going to be delivering. And then to your point, the third piece, which is taking it public facing and doing that really warm handoff. And one thing to even add to this is not just beyond the minutia and details of the project, but what are those personal touch points of how the salesman bonded with the homeowner? How can we bring those personal touch points and incorporate the project manager into this new relationship that's happening so that there's really that emotional bond? Because there's 95% of our purchase decisions take place in our subconscious, which is where our emotions live. So we have to be allowing for the emotional connection between the customer and the salesman that's already solidified, and then having the salesman come in and act as kind of like, I'm going to put my hands on both the project manager, the customer, and I'm going to like put you two together to have that transfer of trust that you said. I love that concept, and just that picture of the salesman really like standing behind these two as they meet and allowing for the emotional connection to take place, and not even just allowing, but facilitating, telling them this is why they resonated with me. Let me, customer, tell you emotional reasons why you'll connect with Bobby, the project manager, and why you're in such good hands. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so we used to have sales reps write at least a paragraph of like the stuff you're talking about, include that with the packet. Different people do. It's like we had people that loved that aspect and would write like 2 pages. And I had like I had people that write like 3-sentence paragraphs. Like, so you have the two extremes there. But what
Yes.
we were just looking for was some of those details, because
Right.
this is the stuff you forget. We want it written down somewhere in our file. It like transfer that information to whoever's going to continue to run the project. Like, do they have dogs? What are their dogs' names? Do they have kids? Like, what else is going on in this house? Because one of the things we did understand is we are going to be the most disruptive thing that these people have ever been through in their house if they're going to stay there during it. And most of our clients stayed there during it. Very disruptive. We're going to flip their wardrobe upside down. You want to know what's happening around that house, in that house, not like a stalker way, but in a way that you can mitigate issues. Like, if you know people have dogs and you're the foreman showing up, you can proactively have that conversation. We are going to be coming in and out of this house all day long. I know you got Rory and Mackie over here, and what is the plan with them? Because this door, like, I don't want them getting out.
Yeah.
So it allows you to start to understand some of the conversations you're going to have. Reps matter. I like practicing this stuff. So like, say you're a foreman and you're on the way to the project. The project manager has briefed you on everything because they're the ones that have been handling it since the sales rep was there. You now know you have your detailed information. You're on the way there and you're dealing with a homeowner. Homeowner's going to be there. And you can play some of this out in your head. The conversations that you're going to have. Not only have you been practicing it in production meetings, now you're practicing it off the knowledge you have, so you're putting in reps.
Right.
The more experience you have, the more reps you have, the better you're going to be when you're talking to that customer. And that's what really matters. Like that's what when I was a foreman, that's what made me great at being a foreman is I figured out really quickly that almost every homeowner is the same. It's the same core principle of conversations that I need to have with them and information that they need. So I built out my own way to do it. How I was going to do the walkthrough before we even started, how I was going to do the mid walkthrough to the end, had my own system, had never had issues with a customer. Customers loved me, but it was because I figured out what are the key questions that people ask, and I proactively started answering them. So I would answer the questions that I knew most people asked in the mid walkthrough. I would answer those questions in the beginning walkthrough. Proactively getting ahead of issues that could be had. Issues that we have at close out of a job. I'm talking about those issues. Not that we're having issues is the thing. I'm eliminating the aspect of those issues becoming a reality by talking about what we are doing to not have those issues proactively. And then when I asked for the check, I collected 99% of the time.
Right.
Even
Ron,
if there was a quote up.
Even if what? I'm sorry?
Even if there was something they wasn't happy with, they would still write me a check because they felt comfortable that it would get resolved.
Right.
But it was because I was proactive with everything.
Well, the transparency of truth really stands out to me as you're saying this, because I know, well, I'll make it personal, Ron. I can feel reticent to share the potential problems that people could have because I'm afraid that I'll scare them off. But you have such a completely different approach here, which I really deeply respect and I really appreciate. I think that there's something about just the transparency of truth that allows for people to know, oh, he actually said the bad news before it's even official. You know what I mean? Not saying that it will happen, but it could happen. And this is what we're going to do to take care of it. There's something subconsciously that really makes me breathe that sigh of relief because I may not have consciously thought of it yet, but it would have come up at some point. And so the fact that you're taking the lead and that whole concept of taking the lead in and of itself, like, oh man, I'm in good hands. I don't have to think of the right perfect question. I don't have to be the one to preemptively consider all that could happen and then circumvent it. I truly am with a real partner who's looking out for me. So that's what the transparency of truth that you're talking about, that really, to your point, 99% of people will give you the check. It breeds the trust, but it also allows for the conversion process to be so much more increased, I bet.
Yeah, and what I'm talking about is the stuff that we know.
Yes.
Like not like okay, so we typically go to worst case scenarios because we like to paint fear, but we're the expert that can solve the fear. You can't go to the extreme, to the worst case scenarios on stuff. What you just need to do is understand how, like I said, I quickly learned all the customers are the same. They just have different personalities. They ask the questions differently. They want to know the same things. So if you're running a business that does a specific service, it's all about trends. You start to understand the trends in what people are asking, how they are asking it, what is the outcomes that they have to have. And once you know that stuff, you have like an unfair advantage.
Yeah.
Because now you can address it beforehand. It's not about talking about all the worst case scenarios. It's about answering the biggest concerns that your customers have before their concerns, because
Mm,
you know it's coming. You
right.
know there is a question. I'm sure you get a question about how do you mask stuff off and what kind of plastic and stuff you use all the time. Like it's just stuff that you know it's coming and you can use as an advantage. And like you said, most people feel like I'm going to scare them off. Maybe they weren't a good customer if they're scared off by the facts of what's actually going to happen on the job, because you know this is what's going to happen. If you can't tell that customer what's going to happen, do you think you should be doing business with that customer? I mean, I would say no
Yeah,
personally. But the thing
exactly.
is that that good customer is, might decide, might be shopping you around, and it could be the reason why they do business with you,
Mm,
because they could go have somebody else out and they want to paint rainbows and sunshine, and they're like, wow, what about that? Like, I heard this could be oh, that never happens. And it's something that happens on every project. But it's
mm,
like they're painting this different picture that customer is going to think, well, I just felt like this better connection with the person that was actually telling me how the process was going to work. And I mean, we used to jackhammer people's basement floors up.
ooh,
And
that's messy.
I would just that would be the conversation. Like, I am literally going to bring 3 guys in here, drag jackhammers down into your basement, mask everything off, and it is going to be the loudest, most disruptive, dirty thing that has ever happened here. But this is the only way we can fix this.
Mm,
We're going to carry it all out through your stairs, right out your front door.
I love
We,
that. It's so
we were
transparent.
Well, because we knew our competitors, they painted rainbows and sunshine, and the homeowners knew it wasn't. Like when
Mm,
we were excavating outside of houses to do foundation repairs and rebuild foundations, we would show pictures of destroyed yards. And like, I'm going to dig down underneath your foundation 12 feet out. Like, I'm going
right.
to have heavy machinery here. Now, we a lot of times left the yard. I had great operators. They would leave yards. That's absolutely blow my mind. But those aren't the pictures we showed, because for us, that was outliers, and we had a greater chance of a complete disaster in somebody's yard than we
Mm,
did actually putting it back, making it look awesome.
yeah.
So, but when somebody shows up out there, then after you have showed the pictures of what the excavator looks like, what the yard could look like, and somebody shows up and they're like, "Oh, this will look the same when we leave," that customer is going to be like, hold on, like, I saw a pit. There is no, like, are they redoing my yard? Like, there's no way it could look the same. So that fear that we have that it might scare somebody off,
Mm.
actually it's probably going to drive more of the right customers to your business.
And that's what a strong brand does, is that they set the expectation for the experience that someone's going to have. Because to your point of it allows for demarcation. Truth is a demarcating uh, element, right? It's a power force that comes in and it draws a line and says you're either a good customer or not a good customer. But if we're not speaking the truth, we don't stand out from our competitors. We might get bad clients, and we're ultimately not telling the truth, which comes down to our core values. We talked
Mm.
about this a little bit before of, well, what are the core values that drive the business? And if you're saying integrity, if you're saying truth, and you're not setting the right expectation, you're fundamentally unaligned and misaligned. So I'm curious about how you actually started to tell the truth to this level that really holds that transparency, Ron, because it is unusual. To your point, hardly any other of the other competitors are doing that. So what really propelled you to start incorporating this tactic?
Same reason I built BuilderComs.
Mm,
I got tired of getting my butt chewed in driveways for
mm,
stuff that was completely avoidable. Like, when you really look at your escalated customers, it's all avoidable. Like there is not a lot that happens. Construction has a lot of uncontrollables. But as long as we can control what we can control, the uncontrollables don't get out of control. Like we look at this all wrong. Like it's all, I don't control any of this. Well, you actually control the foundation that controls the uncontrollables.
Mm.
And look, and I just got like I said, I'm a problem solver, and I like to solve problems permanently. I don't just want to throw a band-aid on something, because band-aids don't scale. Solutions scale. So if you're unwilling to figure out how to fix the problem permanently, then you must have a tolerance to deal with the problem indefinitely. And I just don't have that. Like I want stuff fixed. So it was like, how do I stop getting my butt chewed? How do I get my phone to stop ringing with somebody upset? And it just became like, we just have to be transparent. Like it just whatever. Like don't all sales reps ran better numbers being open than they did not. So the proof's in the number. Like this is what our customers wanted, but what mattered to me was the de-escalation, people paying when we completed the work, making sure that we were making a profit. Like a company is designed to make a profit so it can continue to provide for its employees. We can buy new equipment, new shops. We can continue to grow.
Right.
That's important. You know what cuts into profit more than anything in construction? Callbacks. Upset customers. 100% does nothing but eat profit. So if you're trying to figure out how do I make more in profit, let's look at how much money and time we are spending on callbacks. Because there's a great study that was done. I was just out in Vegas talking about this last year. I'll be out there, or actually I'll be in Orlando this year talking about it, is about how to eliminate callbacks. And there's this great study that was done that if something costs $10 in the design phase, to change that and fix it in the build phase costs $100. Once that, yeah, it's a 10x multiple, and I'm really going to blow your mind right now. To go back after that project is finished and change or fix something that costs $10 in the design phase will cost you $1,000 after the project is finished. This is why callbacks in redoing stuff is absolutely gutting people's businesses.
I just got chills. That is absurd. And to your point, transparency fixes that because they know what to expect. They're not going to be surprised. Man, I just have to say, Ron, we've talked about branding before in other conversations, and really a strong brand sets the expectation for what the experience is going to be like. And it saves all of the aftermath. It saves on canceled, because that's a whole other conversation. We don't need to get into it now, but canceled jobs, that's a whole other, man, we talk so much about getting new leads, getting new customers, but what about retaining the ones that we've actually closed and making them so happy that they don't call back? Talking about the customer journey, analyzing every single touch point. Where's there opportunity for us to do better in terms of the communication, and also do better at just really thrilling and delighting them and thrilling and delighting based on them knowing the truth. We can't thrill and delight if we don't set the baseline for what is. So the truth is paramount in this whole communication crisis. Quick question for you. You said it's not, you didn't say this exactly, but effectively we're not fear mongering when we tell the truth. Can you share a little bit about that? Because I really appreciated that point. It's not talking about worst case scenario. It's just literally stating the facts.
Yeah. So I think, I don't think, I know, is we would go out and we would be like let's take a failing foundation wall.
Hmm.
We would be like, oh my God, I can't even believe you're living in this house. This wall could come in right now. You know
Any
what? That could be an accurate statement, but it's not a statement that needs to be made. Like we we feel like that's because that's not the truth either. Like we took the truth and we inflated it into something that fits a narrative that we want to tell that customer. The truth is just the truth. You can't speak to what the worst case scenario is. Think about the fact that we don't know what's behind a lot of walls. When we
Mhm.
open up a floor, we don't know what's under there. I don't have x-ray vision. I have
Yeah,
over a decade of experience that tells me this looks like it's this, and I can make a pretty educated guess on what we're going to run into. But all you're doing is being honest about your process. We're
right,
not talking about worst case scenarios.
right.
Like for painting, like I wouldn't go in and be like, well, we could put this paint on the wall and it could have a chemical reaction that would just melt your drywall. I would be talking about, we come in, we use a base primer, then we do 2 coats of this. We can do 3 if you want. We put plastic down on the floor, but we are painting your house. We're
Mhm.
going to do our best to clean up, but there could be some spots around. Our guys are professional at this, but at the end of the day, we are spraying or we are brushing on or whatever. However you do that, stuff
Yeah,
happens.
right.
It's not a perfect science. Like just be like people just want you to be real and like be honest with them. But
Mhm.
we feel like the honesty is like I'm way over the top. Like I'm going to tell uh worst case scenario. Why and you don't put those thoughts in your customer's mind.
Right.
Address the worst case scenario when you're approaching it, not
Mm.
like when it's hypothetical.
And
Like
to your point about the fear mongering, it's not like your house could collapse any moment. It's not fear mongering or worst case scenario necessarily even about your process. It's just about in general setting um, an unrealistic element about the existing situation or circumstance and how then you're going to come in and be the hero.
Yep.
I like that perspective too. Joe on Facebook says, the lack of or poor processes, whether it's sales processes, operational processes, lack of lead is really a reflection of the lack of leadership making process a priority. And then he says, without structured processes, growth is not an option. I absolutely love that comment. Without structured processes, growth is not an option. And communicating that to your customer. We need to know it on the internal. We need to have it in for us as a team, but we have to communicate that to our audience. There's a lot more here that I'd love to dig into, Ron. Can I have you back on here and we can talk specifically about what those systems are and specifically what you've done on your end that have allowed for the scalability and the growth because of the new systems in place?
Absolutely.
I would love.
I'm always willing to come on. This has been a
Good.
fantastic conversation.
I so appreciate this. This is so important. And so often whenever we're talking on the foundation first side, coming in and looking at businesses and seeing, man, look at all these broken pieces in the customer journey, or even on the painting and finishing side from the family business, this whole process of the customer journey is something that we will never be too old for. We'll never mature out of as a business. We always need to be looking at this. So Ron, thank you for your wisdom and your insight. I'm grateful for you, my friend, and happy to have you back on hopefully soon.